Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's guest, original member of Bon Jovi, American musician, songwriter, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, David Bryan. David, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thank you.
Guys, today we are absolutely blessed to have an absolute music celebrity, iconic figure, and friend on the show talking about his lifestyle, his desire to keep going and never quit mentality. And so David, let's open up today by talking about this documentary that just hit, Thank You, Good Night. And I loved the quote you said as far as just working hard. And if you put your mind to it, you could do anything. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it came out on Hulu. It's on a whole bunch of Disney Plus, I think, in Europe. It went around the world. We're number one around the world. It's great. It took a couple of years to film it, and it's our 40 years up till now of all the events of putting the band together, going through the ups and the downs and the ups. And like I said, in the words of Bon Jovi, it's the first part because we're halfway there. So the next one is going to be for the next 40 years. So I'll be 150 for that one. No, it starts out with you're learning about John and his life. And then you go into starting out my life and starting out as a classical piano player at 7 years old, auditioning for this classical piano player retired in the town where my father had his business. So I went there when I was 7, and he was playing Beethoven and Bach and Mozart and Schubert and Schumann, and all this amazing music all this noise was coming out of this piece of wood that I couldn't even believe it. And then I sat down, I was like, you don't even know what the hell you're doing. And he just showed me it's very systematic. He's like, okay, here's a C scale where you go da da da, and come back next week. If you don't know it, don't waste my time. I was like, 7, I don't really have a clear concept of time. So I said, I just kind of learned how to take a pee on my own. I get a little on my leg, I'm trying. So I practiced at least 3 hours a day, and I came back and I studied with him for 13 years. So, I put my 10,000 hours in by the time I was 9, and my second 10,000 hours by the time I was 11. So, classical the piano is an amazing instrument that takes so much time to be good at it.
So looking at your history, it's amazing because I believe you're with 2 major piano companies, Yamaha and Steinway, correct?
Yeah, Yamaha for electronic keyboards and Steinway for acoustic pianos.
So probably one of the biggest things, like the story behind Tough Love, is kind of seeing adversity and this and that. And when I'm looking into my guests, one thing I was blown away was that you said you liked when you're off tour to kind of do stuff around the house. And it was a long time you were out of commission when you hurt your hand. Tell me a little bit about that.
I tend to injure my hands. Of all things, not my leg, not my ankle, not the things I need the most. So, and I'm a hands-on guy. I do a lot of things, but I like to do it. So I was doing a stupid thing with a circular saw, portable one. Respect that circular saw. And I didn't, and it chopped off the little part of my finger. And that was not good. I went through a bunch of surgeries. I couldn't play for a year. And luckily, I always injure myself when there's a Bon Jovi break. I don't hurt myself on tour because I'm not doing anything at home because I'm not home. So I'm working all the time. So when I get home, I'm like, hey, let me try this. And so I did murder myself, and I have to get back on the field. So after I did that, I just went through physical therapy and just did it. And now it's like it never happened.
I love that. And the other thing that blew me away when we were doing a little bit of background, we had some time to chop it up on Sunday. You had a pretty big spine surgery, unrelated, not trauma, but I loved your approach looking at Bon Jovi, the corporation, and all the people that worked, and you were not going to, go to the sideline. You were going to get it done and get whatever had to be done after. Tell the audience about that a little bit.
Yeah, I had neck surgery, which I had a birth defect in my neck, and I found out actually when we were touring in 2017, it was the day after my 55th birthday on stage. I had these electrical shocks were happening through me, and I wasn't going to tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I told my wife when I got home, and she's like, okay, call Dr. Mike is my buddy and my doctor. And when he came down to Nashville, they did an MRI, and they said I had this birth defect, and I need an operation in 90 days, otherwise be paralyzed from the neck down forever. I was like, wow, that's not a good birthday gift. And I went to all the best surgeons in the world. He found it for me. And I went to this one surgeon, Dr. Rue at Columbia Presbyterian, who did it. And he was like, okay, don't be a hero. If all of a sudden you can't, pain is pain, but if you can't control your leg or your arm or stuff is really bad, stop what you're doing. You're coming in for surgery. Otherwise, you'll be paralyzed. So I just had a shitload of pain. Like, it was unbelievable, but I did, we had 30 shows. So I did all the shows because I knew we had a whole crew, 200 guys that have families and need paychecks, and they're all depending on us walking on that stage and playing the shows. So I knew that was important to what I do. And I played the Garden. It was like, I remember the Garden was like on the 16th. It was Easter Sunday. And that Monday morning I was in surgery. And he saved my life. It was a year recovery. And then another year of, a year recovery. I did physical therapy for a year and then another year. So it took 2 years.
Solid 2 years to get back to it. Yeah.
I mean, after the first year I went out, we did some shows in South America, and the doctor said that you can't screw it up. It's just going to be pain. I'm like, well, I'm used to that at this point. And
let's go, right?
And he was right. It fucking hurt. It really hurt. And but I played those shows and just kept with the physical therapy. And then after 2 years, it's like, now it's been 7 years. Like, it never happened. Thank God.
It was super impressive. That was the one thing, and that's kind of how we came into interacting with each other. You guys put a ton of time in taking care of your bodies between lasers and all that kind of stuff. And it's impressive. Tell the audience, it was funny because we were talking about that a little bit too the other day, how much training goes in to stay on stage and how hard it is to perform in front of a stadium, and the amount of sweat and hard work that goes into prep up to that.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a physical job, but not when we were 20s. In our 20s, we just drank and partied and had a blast. And then when we turned 30, everybody's like, wow, everything hurts. And we started at that point. We had this one doctor Dr. Thaxton from West Virginia, and he actually worked with Guns N' Roses, and we got him because once everybody's turned 30, they're like, wow, does everything hurt? And he did acupuncture, lasers. So he was the first one where did acupuncture and chiropractic. So he did it every day, trained us. So he put us back on stage because the idea is you got to walk on stage. If everything hurts, you're still walking on stage. And he did applied kinesiology. He had so many different tools in his tool belt to fix us. And it was great. And we still use him. We have another chiropractor. We have another doctor that does acupuncture and laser. I have a laser that I use, which is amazing. You look at this as you get on in the years, you need more help.
That's it, right?
You need more help.
It's funny, turning 50 this year, people, that's one thing we're always talking about. And actually today's sponsor is MedRay Laser and Technology. And the irony is that, people are looking at me and I'm probably in the best shape I've been in the last 15 years. And if it wasn't for the modalities that I use on a regular basis, there's no way. And it's unbelievable. I said the same thing. I was like, God, it was like 30th birthday. I think I was putting a car seat in the car. And I was like, I think I pulled my pack. Like in my 20s, I'm like, I was jumping over the truck. I'm like, did I just get hurt putting the car seat in the car?
I always said, like, when you turn 50, as you'll see, I said, you go to sleep healthy and you wake up injured. I would look at, like, all of a sudden I woke up once and my toe was like huge, right? I was like, I sleep on everything's a my pillow. There's nothing sharp. I didn't stub my toe. Like, how in the hell do I wake up and this thing is injured? But that's welcome to welcome to 50.
So the amazing thing, circling back to Bon Jovi, you guys started as teenagers, and bring the audience. It's funny because we draw a lot of these kids that are coming out of high school. Obviously, my kids are high school, freshman, college. The amazing thing the bulk of your band is still together. And I believe, John and yourself are you're the first call, right?
Well, we were together since when I was 16 and a half. I had my driver's permit. I grew up in Edison. He grew up in Sayreville, and he had a cover band. And it's because of his first cousin who I went to school with said, hey, Joseph Bon Jovi said, hey, my cousin's looking for a keyboard player. And it was a cover band. I'm like, sure. And I drove over the bridge, and that's when our journey started. And cover bands where you play clubs down the shore. We played, we were in high school and we would play up and down the Jersey Shore and get home at 5 in the morning. We had a 10-piece band that made $150, so it was not lucrative. And got home at 5 in the morning and was up at 7 for school. And I did that 5 days a week.
One of the things that I thought was super interesting, and I think that people in the music industry will know, but let's share with our audience the recording studio in the city that you would go to and kind of basically almost like sneak in like off time hours when you guys were just going. And then it's a 2-part question. The song that, set you guys loose, that was like the one,
Well, we started there because John's cousin owned the power station.
Oh, got it.
And it's Avatar, now Berkeley School of Music bought it. So, which is good because it's not condos. They keep it going. But so at the time, his cousin owned it. John was just working for him, sweeping up floors, bringing coffee to everybody. Rolling Stones were there and the biggest bands in the world, Springsteen and Bowie, and just everybody was there. So he was always still writing. I was working with him, and they would give us the 4 in the morning to 10 in the morning slot because nobody wants to work from 4 in the morning to 10 in the morning. So I would drive in. We would put together these songs, and we had a whole bunch of songs in different bands. And then he had the song Runaway, and then I got that, listened to it. I was like, and I added that, bum, 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 bum. I added that, which just brought the song into stratosphere. And then the story about it is that we went to 11 record companies, which is all of them at the time, and everybody said no. So like back then, you can go to New York and wait for the record company guy and hand him your cassette at the door because there wasn't security, there wasn't anything. You just knew the guy, and you didn't Google anybody because there was no Google, there was no computer, cell phone, there was nothing, and you handed that guy the tape. So everybody said no, which is bad because that's everybody. And then we went to the point of there was a radio contest called the WAPP was a radio station where Doubleday owned a handful of these radio stations across the country. So they did a Hometown Heroes record. And of course, they're going to promote themselves. So me and John went up there, and there's a DJ named Chip Hobart. We're like, here's this cassette. It's You Were the Garbage Can. I'm back to school, and we're done. And he listened to it. He went, okay, you won. We're like, great. What does that mean? So we won for that. So they put it on that record, but then they wanted to show off because they had a bunch of radio stations. So they were promoting themselves, the Hometown Heroes, Bon Jovi. So they played Runaway, and they played it. And all of a sudden, we were the number one requested song on radio in the country.
And around what year?
Unsigned, 1983.
Awesome.
So unsigned. So all these record companies were like, whoa, 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 whoa. So now there's a bidding war. Everybody wants us now. And we ended up, because it's the worst record deal you could ever have in the world with a radio station. They own, your children's children and all their money they'll ever make. So it was like a bad deal. But the record company was bidding for us, and that's when we got a deal with Polygram Records in '83.
That's amazing. And, that's the aha. When I host a podcast and, truth be told, you're obviously our most celebrated guest. But I think the audience needs to hear that most people quit. And you've talked about 10,000 hours. You've talked about hard work, that you guys went to everybody and they said no. And then you backdoored it one more time and went to a radio station and let the magic begin.
Oh yeah. I had a lot of music teachers were great. One teacher at Rutgers, when I went there, was Bill Fielder. He was my theory teacher, and he led the Chicago Symphony. He was the first chair trumpet player with the Chicago Symphony. He played with Thelonious Monk. He was sort of almost blind. He was an insane musician. He played the Brandenburg concertos on this little piccolo trumpet the first day of class, and everybody was just crying. I couldn't believe a human could do that. It was unbelievable. And he was like, the difference between can and can't is apostrophe T. That's it.
Love it. Love that right there.
That's the thing that, you just keep your head down, keep running.
So, 83, you guys got the deal. Tell me about what it's like being in the 80s and being a rock star and that climb to, now we're looking 2024. Amazing. What was the 80s like?
Well, at the beginning, we weren't rock stars. We were just signed.
Got it.
So, our first record was gold. It went gold, which is good, 500,000 records. And we got to open up for everybody. We opened up for everybody. Judas Priest, the Scorpions was a long run. We opened up for them around the world. We probably played, I don't know, in the 80s, 130 countries. We went to everywhere that you could play. But we concentrated on being a live band, opening up for everybody around everywhere. And then that was the first record. Second record, went in, did that, 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. We didn't sell platinum, which is $1 million. We sold 800,000. And the record company's like, well, if you don't sell $1 million the next time, we're going to drop you. So that was our do or die record. So Slippery When Wet was the do or die. So we went up to Vancouver and we did that record, and it just was all the planets and the suns and the moons lined up, and bang, and we sold 30 million records. We sold 15 million inside of America and 15 million outside. Then we were rock stars. And then haven't stopped since.
Now, what year is that around?
It's 86.
86? And then it was
we were still opening up for 38 Special then. They had that song, Hold On Loosely, but Don't Let 'Em Go. They had that song. And we were opening up for them because Slippery didn't even come out yet.
Got it.
So then while we're opening up for them, we're the biggest band on the planet, and we're still opening up for 38 Special. But we had to commit to them because you can't just, we sign a contract. So we did another, I think, month of opening, and then we headlined. We haven't stopped headlining.
Love it. Absolutely impressive. One of the things, let's fast forward to now and family and, what you have going on with your daughter. And you said something funny, right? Like, when your business first started, there was no Google, there was no Instagram, there was no TikTok, and all these ways.
No computer.
There was no computer.
Or cell phone.
And what's going on with the podcast you have going on?
So my daughter's, she went to acting school at Pace University. And then I
attended Pace. Didn't know.
So not for business, just for acting. And that was the first year of the acting program. I think some big actor left like 50 or 60 million bucks, and they built this whole wing. So she was the first class there to graduate from acting. And it's hard. Acting is really hard to get a gig. So she wanted to do comedy, because I'm a funny guy and she's a funny girl. So she took this one class. She was like, Dad, can I take this class? It was like $300. I went, first of all, I raised her right because she asked me. And I was like, yes. So she took it. And then I said, listen, you got to do this, you have to do 7 a day. You got to do there's an open mic. Do it for lunch, do it for before dinner, do it for dinner, do it after dinner, do it at night, do it after night, do it all the time. And she's a hard worker of doom. And she kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Got herself up into the world of, she worked with Bobby Kelly is a really good comedian, and he took her under his wing and really showed her the ropes of the clubs and podcasts he had, and showing about crowd work, and she went in with the older guys, and they really taught her a lot. And then she got to the point of the stand where, now she's a house comedian. You go there, she's on the marquee. So she's there, and she's working up and down the East Coast and across America. She made it into England and Ireland. So she's been doing it, and then she started her own podcast, La Podcast, which is a funny one. And then she said to me, funny and successful. Then she said, hey, she was pitching me. She goes, hey, you want to do a podcast? I'm like, I don't even know what it is. What's a podcast? And she goes, well, we film it and you talk. I'm like, isn't that what the radio and TV does? It's just a different format. I'm like, okay. And what is it? She goes, let me ask my dad for advice. I went, okay, sure. And then she got the deal, and we started to do it. And it's great because, like I said, I'm a funny guy, and she's a professional funny girl. And we've probably got 10 under the belt already. And we just announced today, on Deadline, announced that Let Me Ask My Dad comes out on the 28th of May.
Nice.
So it's really fun, and we give advice, and we are not doctors in any way, shape, or form. Don't listen to any of our advice. We have a disclaimer. If you listen to this, that's your problem and your fault. You're not going to sue us because don't listen to me. Like one of the examples was this lady, and they write in questions, right? So the question was I have a 7-year-old boy, and I need help, get him to express himself, and he has a lot of anxiety. I'm like, okay, well, the first part I could figure out, I said, 7 years old, take piano lessons. Take the arts. You can express yourself through the arts. The second part, I said, if I said to my father I have anxiety, he would punch me in the head to whatever anxiety was. He didn't even know what it meant and knock it out of my head. So I don't even know what that means. So I said, listen, what you want to do is just crush up some Xanax in your kids' Cheerios, and then you don't have to worry about the anxiety.
Guys,
so yes, so this is the advice that I went to pre-med, but I didn't pass med.
That might be a pre-med mixed with Rockstar. You got that?
Yeah.
Cheerios for heart health and a little Xanax. One of the things...
Probably works.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that, and it was a video that we actually put out a few weeks ago, and you just said it, and it was a parenting thing, but I think it's David Bryan of Bon Jovi and your testimonial of what got you there. Do it when you're tired. Do it when you're winning. Do it there and just keep doing it. You know, when you told your daughter morning, noon, and night, if you want to be a superstar.
Don't let the grass grow under your feet.
Yes. And I will say that I think so many people that are out there when we're talking and I really see, you know, a clip hit, I think when we pull that one out, it's going to be like, oh, they're just talented. You know, what I'm hearing, and it's, you know, to me, I love when I sit here because it's like I'm constantly learning. I love being in student mode. It was a struggle, right? And the bands you named, and I don't want to be rude to these other guys because I'm sure they're big. I'm like, God, I don't even know who they were. I'm like, I just know Bon Jovi was a monster, and you know, you guys were grinding, and you know, I think life's experiences teach us so much, and like to sit there and talk to your daughter, it's almost like probably reflective for you to say, we were grinding for a long time. You know, 6 years when you're talking about being up around the clock feels like an eternity, you know? And, you know, so I love that. You know, so at the end of the day, it's like a just do it mentality. If you want to get there, don't quit, keep grinding,
and it's also
keep
not
going.
And also my son, Colton, is a realtor. Look him up on the Instagram. He's a great realtor and local and in Florida. And he's same kind of theory. I always said, you know, it's not going to come to you. You have to go to it. If you sit in your house waiting for something to come to you, it's never going to come to you. You have to go to it. The only person that gets lucky is a lottery winner. If you win the lottery, that's luck. Short of that, nobody gets to what they get to without hard work. And if you work the hardest, you get the most. And it takes a lot of hard work to get lucky. You still got to get lucky, but you're not going to get lucky with no hard work. You got to do the hardest work you can and then hope that you get the luck.
So one of the things we were talking about on Sunday, which I love, is we were talking about pro athletes and professional entertainers. One of our team physical therapists that works under MedRay is right now working on a superstar within Dancing with the Stars and whatnot. And I was talking to you about the tour bus, and you were like, couldn't even imagine. And because how hard it is, and like they had 90 dates set up where they were going like all over the country on this bus. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I got to ask David, I'm like, do you guys really jump around like that and move? Like, how do you get there and how do you transport these
90 shows is a cush gig. You know, when you see our documentary, it's like we did 256 shows, then went home for 2 weeks, wrote for the next record, went to the studio for a couple of months and did another 256, you know, so around the world, not just America. So you on a bus, and that was all bus stuff. And it's a ton of work. But the whole idea is that your whole world exists around walking on that stage, performing to the highest level you ever can ever do. And if you love it, you'll do it. Is it exhausting? Everything's exhausting.
So is that the big thing? I think, you know, unfortunately, I think we are as the United States, a lot of people are ignorant. We don't see beyond, you know, our borders. You know, is it when you get to that level of success, you guys literally have to touch every corner of the globe?
You know what? Our first manager, Doc McGee, had his theory, which was great because his brother was a finance guy. And it's sort of like if you look at a portfolio, if you have one stock or if you have 130 stocks, if you spread the risk over 130 stocks, 20 of them are always going to be up. If you just play America, that's one stock. If you play the world, you may not make it in all the places and it may not last in all the places, but you can always work in 20 countries. and 20 markets. So that was the theory, was go around the planet. Our saying always was we would play a pay toilet and use our own change, everywhere on the planet, every market, everywhere. And then now all these years later, we can go back to everywhere. Go back to South America. We haven't been there in 6 years. Sell out 80,000 seats. Because the last time we were there, we kicked our ass. And before that, and we started out small. But if you spread it out around the world, one market is one market.
I like that idea. Tell me this, when you guys are going out there, and this is a question I've always had when you last as long as a Bon Jovi or a Bruce Springsteen, how do you guys balance the music that we grew up with and then the new music? Who's in charge of it? Is that you guys? Is that, or is that?
Oh yeah, it's us. It's all about, you can never predict the future, but you just can't rely on the past. So you got to keep creating, keep moving forward, and keep trying. I mean, look at us. We have our 16th record out, I think it is, and it's coming out June 7th, called Forever. And our first single, Legendary, is top 4 around the world in 130 markets, all around the planet. Still, not because we're going to do Living on a Prayer again. We don't do that. We keep going and going and going and pushing it. You listen to what's out there. You don't copy it. You don't copy a trend because it's going to be gone by the time you copy it, it's over. So you just take in what the world is and take in what you view of the world, and then take what our brand is. Because, you first start out, people always say, the first record, oh, they sort of sound like this, and they sound like this, and they sound like this, because you have to make that comparison. And then once Slippery came out, people were like, wow, this band sounds like Bon Jovi. So, once you find your voice, then that voice, it just grows, and it's hard work. It's not resting. When we do a record, we have 12 new songs on our record. We recorded 30, and threw away 20 songs. And just they go to the side, and people always say, well, do you use those songs again? No, because they weren't good. That's why they didn't make it to the first place.
They didn't make the cut, right?
They didn't make the cut, so you don't want to put those songs out. Sometimes we'll do B-sides or do it for fan kind of stuff, but it's not. That's the reason why they didn't make it. But we overwrite and overwork and overdo it because we have to get to that new record.
So one of the things in the documentary that I thought was pretty interesting, and I couldn't imagine, right? I mean, you guys 40 years in the game. How do you guys balance, working together? Is there a friendship? I mean, I look at it like a pro team. Obviously you guys, we were talking about this on Sunday. It's like, if you can sit on stage, you could sing and go, right? So as long as you can. How do you maintain the energy? Because there's got to be a little bit of a brotherhood because you guys got to rock. I mean, there's got to be the energy. How do you guys keep that up? Like, what would you talk to a corporation saying, hey guys, we've been doing this for 40 plus and this is it?
Oh yeah, it's totally a brotherhood because we have to, we're in it. We were 5 guys against the world, starting out as young men, and we keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And the goal, the reason why the 5 guys in the first place, me and John, and then picking out the guys, is that it has to be your number one priority. It's not like, oh, my wife had a baby or I got married and I'm home and I can't do it. The band is number one. It has to be ahead of whatever you do in your life. And we found the right guys. Me and John found the guys. We found Alec, our bass player, who got us Tico, our drummer, who got us Richie, our guitar player. And then we were all just as committed to keep doing it and making it happen. And it's us against everybody. And we kept going and going. And along the way, Alec, our bass player, drugs and alcohol and abuse, he didn't do good, and he went to rehab a couple times and it didn't work. And then Tico went in once and it worked. And then Richie's been in a couple of times and it's not worked. That's why he's not in the band. So, for me and John, and the band means more, music means more to me than any kind of partying. And luckily I don't have whatever that gene is that makes you the
don't chase it like
gene. That. I don't. It's more important to
perform,
to do what I love. It's make music.
Well, the neat thing is, the greatest appreciation I would say out of today's podcast was that you definitely are like having an athlete here, because having an international stardom, like having this, starstruck power, you could easily get distracted. And I like that, obviously it's something funny when you hit 30 and whatnot, but it's timeless, like making music, like that's your passion. And that you're like, partying comes and goes, but you want to crush it in making music.
Now you need the body.
Yeah.
So it's like I do Pilates all the time. And then when I'm gearing up for a tour, we know we're going on tour, it's like I know 6 months in advance. It's like, okay, train like a motherfucker,
Get ready for it.
It's like, it's like an hour of cardio, hour of lifting, do all my Pilates, and then sit down on the piano and play 3 hours a day and play and go through my scales. Or I go back to the basics. I go to this one exercise book I've had my whole life, and I go into that book and I just go and go and go, and it works out everything and build up the stamina, get ready, build it up, sing, do my warm-ups and sing and sing and sing for hours. I'm
blown away because, when I prep for a podcast, I want to see how you guys move. And I'm like, wow, David is literally locked in, like being in, like, I hunt. So it's like almost like being in a tree stand. You're on that keyboard for, 2+, 3+ hours. And I mean, you must be sweating your what's off. And, what's the, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, baseball players get an inning, it's like they got, you're up, you're down. I'm like, how do you guys,
go? You get into like a trance. It's amazing. You get in there and we all put our hands in like a sports team. We look at each other and we go. And we go, let's go have fun and let's go kick fucking ass. And we walk up on that stage and we're in it. And we know it's like, and it's amazing. 2.5 hours goes poof, gone. Because you're just in the zone. And it's such a great, great, great world to be in.
I'm going to throw one at you. I think now I'm going to start calling you guys like music athletes, but more importantly, what do you think was one of the biggest accomplishments? Because something, it's funny, you got sick during COVID and you went out into the world and made an announcement like, hey, stay home. But beyond that, using your celebrity stuff, like, what do you think is one of the biggest things you look back and say, God, I loved using my name as David Bryan, a member of Bon Jovi, and was able to help X? What would that be?
I think the biggest thing is that we are America's greatest export because we go to every country in the world that you can go to and should go to, and don't go to countries you shouldn't go to. And it's the American dream. You come from nowhere, you can make it to everywhere through hard work, and people look and they're all different languages, but they're singing our songs and they're looking at these guys from Jersey who came from nowhere. And then we could do it. And it gives people hope. It really gives people hope that, you don't have to be born with it always helps. Like I always said, I would be the perfect kid for a trust fund, except I had no trust fund. So, it shows that you can do it through hard work. And if we could do it, you could do it. We're live humans up there on the stage. We're not puppets. We're not, we're humans. And we're doing it because of sheer willpower.
So here's one. We touched on, you talked about a Brotherhood. John's in it right now, right? With the vocal cord surgery, obviously got the song off. But when we talk about, going on stage for this long, it's like, I remember when Peyton Manning had that neck surgery, he had a second surgery. And, I don't know if the world knows him like they know John Bon Jovi, but, do you guys have some concern about that? Or how's he doing? Because he literally was like, I'm leaving, I'm like kissing it to God kind of mentality.
It could be. I mean, that was also 2 years ago. We filmed that. So yeah. He had that surgery. He worked through it. After about a year of his vocal rehab, we started doing band practice 2 days a month. And he would get in there, we'd get there together, and he was all right. And he kept getting better and better and better and better to the point where, and he's a hard worker. He wants to get back on the field. Just like me, just like Tico's gone through shit. Everybody goes through shit. And he wanted to get back on the field. So he works like a madman to get back on the field. And he got to the point where we went into the record in October, November. He could walk in there and do a song or 2 songs a day, sing his ass off because the record is great. Then it's like, okay, well, after that, now you have to have stamina. So then we do rehearsals. We just did it last week. We did 3 hours a day. And we're
trying to get the podcast.
And working and singing and working and singing and singing and singing. And now the idea is he's building that up and building that up. So now you got to put together a 2.5 hour show 4 times a week for 3 or 4 months. So that's a different game. So that's where he's at, and he'll do it. We get back on the field.
How do you guys, it's a great question. You just made me think, being a professional basketball trainer for almost a quarter century, how do you guys simulate being on stage when you guys have been down for a while? You know what I mean?
Well, we rehearse. You never can. It's nice. That guy knows how.
That was my son.
You never can do. You know what? It's the preseason till it's the preseason till the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? A preseason game is a preseason game. So we can rehearse all we want. And we rehearse, and we're at a high level when we rehearse. I mean, I'm done. I'm tired after 2.5 hours. My body hurts. My voice hurts. Everything is tired. And then when you do that and you build it up, especially when we know we're going out, we'll rehearse a lot. And then when you walk on stage for that first time and you go there, you have to talk yourself down from being too excited. And then I always said the next morning you get up, we have rock neck because you're like going, motherfucker. And you go like that. And the only person that does that is like a whore. I guess that's good neck muscles. So besides that.
And by the way, if this is Gabby's podcast, it could be,
yes,
by the way, we don't discriminate. It could be a man or a woman.
Whatever it is, I don't care. But
we don't discriminate here, ladies and gentlemen.
But it's just like, you're like, fuck, my neck hurts. And you just go, it's like live game situation. It's so much different. It's so much heavier. It's so much more energy. And it's the playing part, and it's really singing. I mean, the playing part's hard, but the singing part, we sing a lot. I sing a lot in our band. And it's like you're always breathing out and breathing out and breathing out.
That was the thing I was thinking about. Like, I'm watching you on that keyboard and you're smashing it. And, I saw it being at your house. I was like, are you really moving across all these keyboards and singing at the same time, leaning in? I'm like, this is a freaking workout.
Oh, yeah. It's incredibly physical. And we don't take breaks, and we don't have like an intermission. We don't play for an hour. We go 2 hours straight, take a break, try to put our hearts back in our chest, get off stage, change your shirt, get back out there and play another half hour for encore.
What's funny? I think every athlete has, a moment, a game, or, that experience. And hearing you talk, I'm going to put you in that same category. Give me a song and a location or a couple that just blew your mind where you were like, this is fucking amazing.
You know what the difference, and my friends, like I said, Michael Strahan's a great friend, David Wells is a great friend. So these guys, it's so amazing, at 40 years old, you're done. Your body gives up and you're done. How, from 40 to 62, for 22 more years, than that point, I am so much better, not just mentally. That's why you can see players want to be coaches, because mentally they're good, but their body's failing. In the world of rock, I mean, look at the Stones are 81. But you think about how much more we can go from those guys are done at 40 to 22 years down the road, how much better I am at my craft. If I had to stop at 40, it would be terrible. That has to be the worst thing when your body fails you like that. And we're good. So there's just so many shows. I mean, I always come back to, of course, Giant Stadium is the hometown turf, so that's the best thing. But there's just so many in the world. I mean, from Wembley Stadium to so many. Germany, we play the Olympic Stadium to just, we're very fortunate to play, 70, 80, 90,000 seaters.
On a regular basis insane. When you guys go live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you guys open up the next tour? Arrange.
Working on John having that stamina.
Got it. So
we're looking for next year. It won't be before then, and he'll be good by then. And we're all in it together. Like I said, we do rehearsals once a month, so we keep tracking. He's tracking his progress, and we're tracking it, and we're there for him, and it'll happen. We don't lose. We always said we're from Jersey. It's us versus everybody.
Love that. You know what? Today's podcast to me was, a game changer, because obviously your success is unprecedented, right? You guys have crushed it. I mean, other than I think Richie being out, the reality is like the Brotherhood, the success, the drive to keep pushing you guys, because it looks like everybody's done stuff. I mean, your career on your own is impressive too. What you've done, with writing and producing, et cetera. The podcast about to come into play. What would you leave the audience if you were going to say something as far as working and chasing your dreams? What is one piece of advice you give them as we close out this podcast today?
I think it's like you always got to follow your dreams. And you have to know it takes a lot of hard work to get lucky. I said that before. And it's true. It's not going to come to you. You have to go to it and never say no. You ever seen can't and can is apostrophe T.
Love
it's
it.
that simple.
I'm going to leave it there. Guys, today, David Bryan of Bon Jovi, absolute amazing guest. His story, their story, just epic. So many pearls for you guys to learn from. I'm going to leave it there. And thank you so much for MedRay Laser and Technology for being the sponsor for today's podcast. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.